How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Today I want to look at the cryptocurrency market because we're down pretty significantly, breaking through several supports and breaking down to the point where a lot of people are calling this a bear market. So I want to talk about that. How low could we actually go? What kind of support lines do we have to watch out for? I also want to talk about how if you don't make a significant amount of money over the coming years in the market, you might end up poor because it's going to be harder and harder to get ahead. I want to talk about that and also what I'm looking to do and take a look at Anchor Protocol and actually UST, their stablecoin that's now in the top 10, and it's actually breaking peg. So I want to talk about that, whether you should be fearful or not, and also tell you what I'm going to do a little bit buying into the market. So if you guys don't mind hitting the like button and subscribe button, I appreciate that. There's a link to FTX underneath the video. There you can get free crypto every time you trade $10 or more. They have some of the lowest fees out there. You can also track a ton of different cryptocurrencies and different exchanges on here, and they're trusted by over 6 million people. So, like I've said a couple times, on a recent trade of $100, I did get a free $30 worth of Solana, which was really nice. So, definitely check out that link underneath the video. I always think it's nice to have multiple exchanges set up as well, because sometimes when there's high volatility, some of the exchanges go down and they don't work. So Bitcoin is under 35,000. I was calling for it yesterday on Twitter. I said, hey, I really want 35,000. I have a buy order there, and I bought a decent amount at 35,000. I have another one set up, and I'll talk to you more about that, what my plan is going forward. But you can see it broke down about 4%. Ethereum's down 5%, BNB 5%. A lot of cryptos down significantly, with Terra actually down 17%. Again, we'll talk more about that later. But this is where we're seeing with Bitcoin. So we have the 100-day moving average, or 100-week moving average. We broke through that. It was actually around the same point as this trend line that we had seen hold up since last year. So we had seen it bounce off of it several times, and we broke through that this week pretty substantially. Now we have the 200-week moving average. Now you might be saying, why look at that? Because that's really where we've fallen the lowest in the past. If you look in any of the bear markets here, you can see we broke down slightly below it back in 2020, but going back a little bit further, we were just touching it back in 2018, 2019, and then even going back further, that's about as low as we would go. Now, I think that's really worst case scenario. Right now, that is right around 22,000, 21,500, about right in there. And the fact is, that is much lower than where we are now. That's worst case scenario in my mind. But remember that moves with time. So we're sitting, like I said, 21,500, 22, somewhere around there. But if we go just a year back, we were around $12,000. So, I mean, it moves up with time, right? If we look a year out and we stay in this range, we're looking at low 30s. So the fact is that continuously moves up day in and day out. And that's what I've talked about before on the channel, right? As time goes on, Bitcoin's value and the amount that it can fall goes down as well. So that's worst case scenario. What we could see is what we saw last year. We could fall down to about that 28.5 mark. Bounce there. But before that, we have to go through a couple different points. So earlier, just a few months ago, we went to about 33,000, bounced off that. So that's really the next line that we're looking for, right around 33,000. If we break through that, we're looking around 30,000 because obviously that's a big psychological barrier. And then 28.5 or so. And then we're looking at mid-20s and then maybe this 200 weeks moving average there. So those are what we have to look forward to. Now, again, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not fearful right now. I am happy. And the reason I say that is I think that over the next few years and really over the next few months, we're going to see, I think, some pain, right? Maybe it turns around pretty quickly and there are a couple things that could do that. But I think over the next few years, you have to be an accumulator of these different cryptos and of different stocks. So the reason I say that is we all know inflation is going crazy. If you had tried to buy something for $1992, you would need over $2 now. So 30 years later, you need to double up your amount of money to buy the same product, and some things are way more than that. And we have also income's not really increasing with the price, right? If you look at the share of corporate sector income, you can see that workers used to make about 80% of income. Now it's down to 74%. So where's this going? Well, it's going to stocks. Obviously, the price of stocks have gotten much more expensive, while the average employee income is about 3% higher a year. So 24 years and you double your income. If we look at that compared to average home prices, right? You can see back in 65, nearly, well, let's go 70, about 50 years ago, and the average home price is $26,600. Now, obviously, we have bigger homes, so it's not a one-to-one comparison, but you can see significantly more, like 15 to 20x more expensive. If we go back to, your average income going up 3% a year, right? 24 years to double. Well, the S&P 500 over the last 24 years, right? That has gone up 4x. So while your income's doubled, the S&P 500's gone up 4x. So the fact is, you have half the purchasing power in the S&P 500 that you had a while ago. So you need to get a hold of assets. Now, I want to be clear. I said earlier that you need to get a hold of cryptos that are going to go up. I'm cautious about really all cryptos besides Bitcoin and maybe a few other altcoins if they get low enough right now, just because there's so much uncertainty. If we go through some kind of prolonged bear market, even just a year, right? I want to be adding to Bitcoin because the other altcoins can shift around a lot. And the fact is, we don't know how long this is going to last, and they could be hit hard, right? Really hard compared to Bitcoin. Now, when we look at what to do next, right? I said this could change pretty quickly. That was one of my last videos, that everything can change because we have a couple big things coming up. And one is we have the CPI data reading coming out Wednesday. So if inflation actually came down a little bit, that might be a sign to the Fed that we're not actually going to overheat, and maybe they can lay off the 50 basis point hikes. That would mean that crypto and tech stocks are risk on again, and there's a lot of capital that is looking for somewhere to go. The other thing is we know that a lot of capital wants to come into crypto, but everyone's a little bit cautious because there's no regulatory framework right now, and regulation is supposedly coming in the next year. So hopefully when that comes, we can get a spot ETF, more and more cryptos locked up, especially Bitcoin. But then also bigger investors are more willing, and institutional investors, those types of investors are willing to dump money into crypto because they see the potential. I think we also should look at dollar cost averaging and averaging down as it goes down, putting money at key supports. And I made this video yesterday talking about how it's time to DCA. And I actually went through numbers in there showing how much you'd make if you DCA'd versus if you timed the bottom perfectly. And the fact is, it's very hard to time the bottom because we have a lot of false bounces, right? And second of all, we don't get that much of timing it perfectly if we only fall another 30% or so. And I went over the math there, so I won't go over it again. Watch that video if you haven't already. I think it's going to be really valuable and show you that maybe it's not the best time to just hold on to cash and just wait for the exact bottom. Because again, you never know when things are going to turn around quickly or have a false green day or something like that. I mean, we saw that in the stock market this week where we had some green, and then all of a sudden the NASDAQ fell 5 or 6% the next day. So you have to be careful of that. So right now I am a buyer of Bitcoin. I bought yesterday at 35.1. Actually touched down on that and then came back up and then broke through it again. And I do have more buy orders set. I'm actually averaging out of some of my stablecoin. And if you want me to talk about that, I will. Just let me know in the comment section. Speaking of that, we actually have Luna price dropping 20% a day. And this is because a whale dumped a ton of UST. They actually dumped about $285 million worth of UST. And this caused the UST stablecoin to depeg to 0.98. Now, that might not sound scary. It looks kind of scary on the chart. I know some people were worried. You can see it bounce right off that. And now we're back down a little bit, right? We are off the peg. About 1 out of every 200 pennies that you have in UST is now gone until it comes back to its peg. You can see though, we've been worse before and it came back. We went all the way down to about 0.985. And when we go even further back, this is nothing compared to what we saw last summer, where we saw it go all the way down to 0.945. Now, this is the biggest fear of a lot of investors in algorithmic stablecoin, is that you lose peg. But with their backing with Bitcoin and with the way that UST and Luna work, we should get back to peg. And now it can always lose peg because some people are just willing to get out of it and they'll sell it at a loss just to get out a little bit faster. Now, I think that you should just pay attention to this if you have money in Anchor, right? Look for signs of concern. I don't think this is a sign of concern yet, but I will say, like I said, I am averaging out of Anchor actually into Bitcoin. And again, let me know if you want to hear more about that in my plan. And I appreciate you guys watching, everyone watching. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of the channel. Again, you can check out FTX underneath the video. Let me know what you think about this market. Are you excited? Like I said earlier, I'm pretty excited because I get to buy Bitcoin. And unless you think Bitcoin's going down to zero or you think it's never coming back, I don't know why you wouldn't be excited, right? Unless you need the money in the next 1 or 2 or 3 years, this is a golden scenario for you. Now, again, if we fall down to 22, 23,000, depending on when it is, right? If we get to that 200-week moving average, that's a kill zone. That's where you go and put a lot of money in Bitcoin, and you want to accumulate as much as possible because that is typically the lowest that we get. We might touch down a little bit lower, maybe break under 20, but that's pretty rare. And if we do that, it's pretty short term. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.